Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I get to simplify marketing and the mindset necessary so chiropractors can increase their income, their impact, and their enjoyment in practice. In fact, in today's episode, we're really going to be talking about mindset. But before we do that, let me ask you a question. How are you? Really, take a moment now, maybe a couple of deep breaths, whether you're out for a walk or maybe driving in the car. Check in with yourself and how are you feeling? I've been asking this question a lot more to my coaching clients, and they've been coming back with answers that have been a little bit different, but there's definitely a trend in where they're going over these past months or so. They're feeling a lot more stressed, a lot more angry, frustrated. Many of them are worried, and a lot of them are feeling really scared. So here's my next question. When I asked you how are you feeling, hopefully maybe you said out loud or maybe you just checked in with yourself. So here's my next question. Why are you feeling this way right now? Now, when I ask that question, when I follow up with my coaching clients, why are you feeling this way right now? Inevitably, they respond to me with the events that are going on in their life, a combination basically of what's going on around them. It's things like, it's the lockdowns, it's the threats of mandatory vaccination, it's the uncertainty, it's practice numbers going down or maybe not able to go into practice at all. It's the seeming madness around them. The list goes on and on. Now, what I want to share with you now is a really important distinction as well, because the answer to why you're feeling the way you're feeling is probably not what you think it is, okay? We'll talk about that in a moment. This distinction, when you grasp it, could be what I think is one of the most important concepts or distinctions for your mental health, your emotional health, and your financial health. This is literally $1 million idea. Literally. If you can grasp this, as I mentioned beforehand, embody it, and apply it to your practice, to your business, it is worth millions of dollars for you. Here's what this distinction is, this concept. It's not the events in our lives that shape us, but really it's our beliefs in around those events that are shaping us. So when people are saying, I'm feeling worried now because of some of the uncertainty that's going on around me, mandatory vaccine, all those kind of things there too. So right now, for most people, the way they're feeling to some essence, when I'm asking them, what is the event that's having you feel that way? It's COVID, okay? Now, if COVID were the cause of anxiousness, of fear, of stress and worry, then everybody would be feeling that way because virtually everybody is experiencing COVID, but not everybody is feeling that way. Now, the truth is some people and some businesses are thriving at the moment. My practice in 2020 had an increase in income, in takings, compared to 2019. And just as a reminder, my practice is in Melbourne, Australia, where we had some of the most stringent, tightest, and longest lockdowns of anywhere in the world. And yet my income was still up on 2019. There is a cafe just around the corner from me that closed because it wasn't able to meet its overheads. And yet there was another cafe one suburb over where I know the owner of it, and it's the best year he's ever had in business. And so the truth is, if COVID were the cause of stress and anxiousness, then we'd all be feeling the same way, okay? Now, the difference between the businesses that are thriving and those that aren't, and the individuals that are thriving and those that aren't, is not COVID. It's not the event, but really what it is, it's our thoughts and our beliefs in around this event. Now, the thought that tends to underpin all of this, again, the difference between thriving and not thriving, I've really brought down into one word with a slightly different ending on both of them. Those businesses that are thriving are hopeful. Those individuals that are thriving are hopeful. And those that aren't are feeling hopeless. Now, here's the interesting thing when it comes to hopeful and hopeless. They're both choices. Now, maybe some of you listening to this right now might be starting to get a little grumpy with you. You might be saying, well, that's all well and good for you, Angus. You're not looking down the barrel of what I'm looking at. You don't have the financial challenges, the family challenges you don't have going on in your life that I do in mine. And to that, I would say, you're right. So what I want to do is I want to share a quote with you, a couple of quotes here from someone who hopefully, for your and for my sake, has been through something worse than you and I will ever go through. I'm going to share a few quotes from Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. And in this book, he shares his experiences from the concentration camps, Nazi Germany. Now, here's what he had to say. Now, the sort of person that a prisoner became was the result of an inner decision and not the result of the camp influences alone. Okay, I'm going to say that again. The sort of person that a prisoner became was the result of an inner decision and not the result of the camp influences alone. He then went on to say, at any moment, man must decide, for better or for worse, what will be the monument of his existence. Now, I think part of what he was saying is that at any moment, regardless of what's going on around us, COVID or not COVID, we get to choose to be hopeful or hopeless. Frankl said it was this spiritual freedom which can't be taken away from us. Now, I'm not asking you to change your beliefs in around COVID, but I do want to ask you a question. How are things working for you at the moment? Do you feel like you're heading in the direction that you want to be heading in personally, as a family, as a practice? And if you do, then great. It probably means that your beliefs are in line with the goals and where you want to be going, okay? But if you're feeling stagnant, unsure, or as we talked about before, if you're feeling hopeless, then I want to invite you to perhaps investigate some of your beliefs. What is it that you're thinking? So if you're happy with how things are progressing, then great. There's no need for change. But if not, then maybe it is time for change. Now, a couple of points that I want to share with you here. There are no right and wrong beliefs. There are just beliefs that work for us and don't. This was very freeing for me when I realized this. It took a lot of the judgment out of things. Now, another important consideration for this, choosing your beliefs doesn't guarantee that you're going to feel great 100% of the time. This was another key distinction of mine. When I realized this as well, I gave myself permission to sometimes feel sad and be okay about it. A little over a month ago, a dear friend of mine lost his son. And because of that, I've been feeling very sad. Now, I feel sad because of the belief that life is precious and for it to be taken away at such a young age is tragic. Now, that sadness doesn't feel great. It hurts, and at times it feels paralyzing to me. But it's okay. I want to feel sad. And for me to not feel sad in this situation would mean that I would need to get rid of the thought or the belief that life is precious. And that's just not something that I'm prepared to do. So sometimes the beliefs that you had may be working for you, but you may be sad and you may be frustrated. You may be angry. You may even feel pissed off. Okay. But are the beliefs getting you in the direction that you want to be going? So what I wanted to do with you perhaps now is maybe give you, because when we're stuck and feeling worried and anxious, it can be sometimes difficult. It feels like we're in a bit of a rut and all we see around us are kind of walls. It doesn't seem like there's a way out. So I want to perhaps imagine that we're an all-you-can-eat smorgasbord where what I want to share with you is some other beliefs that maybe that you could try. Now remember, it's not a matter of whether the beliefs are right or wrong. It's just a matter of are they serving you and are they getting you closer to where you want to go? Remember, you're in charge of this. As Viktor Frankl says that in the deepest and darkest times of Nazi Germany and a concentration camp, if people could choose to make meaning and feel hopeful in that circumstance, then I believe in this circumstance right now, we can choose hopeful as well. So I want you to imagine that you're walking down that buffet. In front of you are a whole bunch of new beliefs and thoughts that you can try on. The good news is that you can't fill up on these beliefs. You can try all of them on, as many as you like as well. So how would life feel for you and how would you feel right now if the belief that you had, overarching everything, is that you were guided? What if the belief is that everything is as it should be? How does that feel for you? Now, if you tried that on at the moment, the belief that everything is right now as it should be, what if you took on the belief that everything is happening for you as opposed to everything is happening to you? What if you had the belief that everything is happening for you? How is the belief that it was meant to happen the way that it did? How does that change the way that you feel around things? What about if you tried on the belief that you're exactly as you should be? What about if you had the belief that everything happens right on time? So sometimes we want to just sit and think, what if that was my belief? What if I had the belief that everything happens right on time? I like the belief that the universe makes no mistakes. And so therefore, if I'm thinking that the universe makes no mistakes, then with everything that's happening right now, I just don't know what the end is. Okay, I've been in, and you have too, in movies where there seems to be chaos going on, but I have the hope, and because it often happens inside of movies, that something great is going to happen at the end. Unless you're watching Game of Thrones, in which case, very often, the main character ends up being decapitated. But that's a thought for another time, okay? I don't believe that life is like that. I really believe that the universe doesn't make mistakes at all. What about this belief? I'm not my mind, I'm the watcher of my mind. For many of us at the moment, our mind there's a lot of chatter going on. There's a lot of stinking thinking. But what if you had the belief, I'm not my mind, but I can become the watcher of my mind? I like this for a belief. Love is always an option. There's some difficult circumstances, a lot of circumstances where people are feeling angry, aggressive as well. But I have the belief that love is always an option. I also have the belief that unconditional love is something that I do for myself rather than looking for it from somebody else. That unconditional love is something that I do for myself. What about the belief that I'm responsible for everything that I think and feel? What if you were to try that on for a moment? How does that taste? How does that feel for you? If that you could have the belief. Now remember, it's just a choice. It's all it is. In the same way, we'll go back to again that quote I shared with you with Viktor Frankl, is there's a choice. At the events around us, you could choose that you're responsible for everything that you think and feel. What about the belief that no one can cause an emotion inside of you? How does that feel for you? What about this belief? People are allowed to behave the way they want, and I'm allowed to react the way that I want. On social media right now, there is so much indignity, there is so much judgment, vitriol, anger. We're angry at how other people are behaving. But what if you had the belief that people are allowed to behave the way they want, and I'm allowed to react the way I want? Now that means, some people are pro-vax, some aren't. People are just allowed to behave the way they want to. What if you had the belief it's not what I do, it's who I am as well? I really like this next belief here. There's nothing that I can do that wouldn't be worthy of forgiveness. That's been an important one for me to try on. There's been a lot of mistakes that I've made over my life. There's a lot of things that if I could go back and perhaps do them differently, I would have treated people differently. But I also have the belief that there's nothing that I could do that wouldn't be worthy of forgiveness. What about this belief for you? How would this have you feel at the moment, that there's nothing wrong with me? So often when I'm teaching marketing to chiropractors, and part of what I'm teaching and encouraging is to make videos, one of the things that holds people back from making videos and putting themselves out there and being a leader in their communities, there's thought that there's something wrong with me, that they're not enough. But what if you had the belief that there's nothing wrong with me and that you are enough? I'd love to, that's a belief I think worth holding on to as well. What about if you had the belief that the purpose of your life is the life that you're living now? This constant search for purpose, like it's something outside of you, like it will be dropped into you from somebody else, I don't think is helpful. But what if the purpose of your life is exactly what is happening right now? How would that feel for you? What about the belief that you are deeply loved? That would be a great one to have at the moment and perhaps moving forwards. I think if there is a belief that I could implant inside of you, it would be this next one, is that the world longs for what you have to offer. What if that was a deep knowing inside of you, that you had something inside of you that the world was after? I think as chiropractors, we absolutely have that. And it can be that belief that can have you move through difficulty and frustration and fear and stress and worry. But if you had the belief that the world longs for what you had to offer, that would help you get through these difficult times as well. What about this next belief here, that there's nothing that you truly want that you cannot have? That's a belief that I love. Now, I don't hold on to that one all the time because I get some stinking thinking that jumps into my mind, but I come back to that belief. That's a belief that I choose to have because it serves me. It puts me back in control and has me be responsible again. This might be another one, that if you want to have that belief, there's nothing you truly want that you can't have. You might also want to have the belief that hard work feels amazing and that you can do hard things. It's interesting because there is this background conversation that I see online and everywhere that we're all after the quick fix, that apparently there's something wrong with hard work, that if we can find the easier way, let's go that way. But I like to think that hard work feels amazing and that I can do hard things. They're two beliefs that I have there as well. I think this next belief is one that nowadays is essential that we have, and that is that change is easy. Over this last 18 months, there's been a tremendous amount of change personally in my life. I've sold the practice that I've been in for almost 25 years. I've moved away from hundreds, if not thousands of patients that I've looked after, for 2.5 decades and had beautiful relationships with. I've stopped practicing. That's been a change in my identity. I've moved town from a place where I was really comfortable with lots of people that I knew and very close to family, to a place where I don't know anybody, and I'm not as close to my family as well there too. Now, during this time, and on top of that too, after a 19-year hiatus, I've had another baby again there as well. Now, one of the things that's really helped me through this, one of the things that's really allowed me to enjoy all of this, is the belief that change is easy for me. That's something that I've held on to as well. I want to leave you with a quote as well. This is a quote from Charles Darwin. I think it's poignant for these times at the moment as well. Now, maybe, in fact, before I share this quote, it might be worth listening to those beliefs a few times, hitting that rewind 30 seconds, go back a couple of moments there too and listen through them. What ones do you want to take on? Now, taking on a new belief is just really about practice. It's about finding it. There's nothing, this is just something that we choose. Our old beliefs were implanted in there, but with repetition, we can believe these new things. I know that's the case because I've done it a lot over this last couple of years there as well. But in order for you to do that, when I talk about that, change is something that you want to hold on to as well. Charles Darwin, the quote I want to share with you here is, it's not the strongest of the species that survives. It's not the most intelligent. It's the one most adaptable to change. That's the superpower at the moment that I think that we should be working on. Adaptability to change. This world that we're in at the moment is changing at a rate that's almost unimaginable as well. And those amongst us that are most adaptable to change are the ones that will not only survive this, but I think that will thrive on the other way through it as well. So my hope is that there's some beliefs there that bring you some ease, that help you, again, move forwards in the direction that you want to be moving as well. I think it's worth investigating these things for the simple reason that, as I mentioned beforehand, so I really do believe that there are a group of people in your community who are wanting you to desperately step up and lead them. And in order for you to be able to do that, it probably means that you're going to need to take on some new beliefs. So until next time, friends, thanks for all that you do. Keep saving lives. Your community really needs you. Until next time, see you soon. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.